Hey nerds, rebound, recoil. Let go, let gravity, let God. Let your design be restored. We have a master spring, this master spring, at least in the way I understand it currently. And guys, I don't ever think anyone's right all the way, right? Always investigate. The master spring, the Achilles, is attaching here, and it's winding. Its attachment, when the foot is in a healthy place, it's wound. It winds and unwinds. Your hip attachments here, your hip ligaments are winding and unwinding. Healthy ligaments wind and unwind. So if you think about those airplanes we had, those little balsa wood airplanes, I know we used to buy them at the drugstore for 25 cents. There's a rubber band, and you wind up the propeller, and then you toss the plane and it just goes. So this is a concept that somewhere is missing in mainstream movement and fitness culture, the wind and unwind. That's why I teach and study the things that I do. And it's one reason I prioritize both sprinting and West African dance, because you can't really do them well for the long run if you don't respect these winds and unwinds. And honestly, a healthy walk is going to have these winds and unwinds too. That's actually going to heal the tissue. It's going to say, hey, this feels good. And when your body feels good, you want to do more because you guys have a great relationship. It's not toxic. No struggle. All right. And to answer the question, why do I wear a robe? It's because I feel more like a martial artist. And why shouldn't we wear clothes that let us move fully? Why shouldn't we wear clothes that let us move fully? I love in West Africa, people wear these gorgeous clothes that let them move. And they might not have very many outfits, but they're very functional because they only have a few, right? So, back to this, restoring these springs. The Achilles, guys, I have even a podcast episode about integrated foot strength. You might want to go look at that with Nick Simpson. And by integrated foot strength, I mean we load with our body weight in the tensional lines of our design. Not do some simple, unweighted linear things. No, our whole body. Integrated foot strength, very different beast than isolated foot strength, right? So we're just first of all going to assume that you are already working on integrated foot strength, and that you're already trying not to have these collapsed arches and knees. You're not wearing shoes that trap your toes. We're just going to assume that's movement hygiene you're doing somewhere else. So what do I do, Deb, in say the context of an African dance class? Well, and sprinting, these are the same things. So in sprinting, when I get the weight of this leg in its alignment, in its socket, whether it's here because my hip hasn't moved forward yet, or my hip starts to move forward and it looks straight. Whether it's here and it looks like this leg's on an angle, or it's here and it looks like this leg is straight. There's this moment because this huge mass, if I'm in a bent, springy position, when it hits the floor, and I'm lined up over that force, it's going to just spring me up into the air. So a common sprinting error is people just falling forward, and they're just gnashing and crashing into their tissue. Do not bother to sprint like that. Don't even bother, okay? Maybe go up a hill so that actually limits your ability to splay and fall. All right, so this idea, this mass of this leg, my hip can turn, even in the joint, this thing can turn. My ankles can turn, my shoulders can turn. There's a lot that can all wind up all the way from the ground to the crown. And what happens is our pelvis gets a little tuck and this whole spine gets locked, and then we're on the inside of our feet. And the best imitation we can do is if I get in this angle, and my knees are bent, I can hit the front of my foot without putting the heel down, and then drop, straighten as the weight drops. Boing. Then it's easier to push on the balls of my feet because of I'm in the push cycle I'm in the push part of running, I'm in the push part of walking, I'm in the push part of jumping. Front of the foot is push. So one thing that happens is we start to try to do everything up here because it's not happening here. The hips are locked and we're doing all this up here, trying to get, and there are these little rebounds, these rebounds that I was just like, how the hell is my Senegalese teacher, how the hell are they doing this? Like, where is this coming from? Then the other thing that happens is we go, okay, I'm just gonna do it with my knees. Just do it with okay, now I'm gonna do it with my feet and my knees. And then I at least learned, okay, put a guardrail, don't let yourself gnash out. But here's when I started to see the crossover, when my mobility started to return to my integration started to return to my spine, I'm like, oh, there's a moment when we're in healthy sprinting where this hip is coming up and over. So this knee that's pointing forward, as the hip comes up and over, it looks like my knee is turned in and my foot is turned in. I'm like, oh, it's going through this. And then as my hip starts to change direction, it looks more like this. And then I'm finally landing and it looks more like this as my hip goes back. So I'm not saying get stuck worrying about this just yet. We want it all to come out in the wash. But I want you to start looking in your African dance classes. Where is the teacher using their mobility? Where are they moving down here with either their knees and letting the movement at the bottom of their rib cage happen? And where is it that there's an integrated wind up of tension? So what I noticed is, like, there's this move, we're doing this, and I can do this very flat, but I'm slightly rocking forward and back. Great. Then I can lean on one side. You see my whole body's leaning. Walk, walk, bunk, walk. And notice here, boom, I can lift that knee up higher. Boom, and let it drop. Boom, boom, boom. And then okay, so here's one principle in general. Lift those knees. When I get this angle and I can get the mass of this leg up, I've got a huge amount of stored energy. Those butt kicks, power, boom, I'm storing up power. Look at how I did that with my spine. My spine and hip can store up this power. So, why did I say all that? So, use the mass of your legs. Well, and the mistake most of us make is because we're dumping forward, is we let it kind of spill out behind us instead of get it in front of us to go down. That's a sprinting error too. Is people just start falling instead of driving forward. So that's rule one. Use the mass of your legs. Use the energy release from the dropping of the mass of your leg to help you fly. That means corollary or rule sort of two, lift your knees higher in the front than you think you need by leaning into the movement and respecting the design of your hip joint. I think I have another one on that on this channel. Number three, though, is use your spine to move your hips in a way that you can spiral energy in to let it rebound out. So what I mean by this is, in sprinting, the hip joint needs to come up and over and through, and it'll look like my knee's turned in, but my hip is really just ready to unspiral. And then when this leg lands, the front of my leg lands, it's gonna boom. When this hip turns, it's gonna unwind my hip, it's gonna unwind my knee, and boom, I get this rebound out. What people like me would fake is like, I'm just like pushing it out versus boom. And part of the equation is this can only come up and over and forward if this is kind of going over, down, and back. You see that relationship? This relationship here? So where would this happen? A lot of times, one reason I like Senegalese and West African movement is there's often this upper body doing these lovely turning movement of the hands. It's often this direction. It's rarely, sometimes, but rarely this direction. It's often because this counterbalances the drop. This makes the drop lighter. And so in this case, boing, boing. So here, I might be lifting my foot, and then boing, lifting my foot, boing. Okay, is this gonna happen overnight? No. Oh, I saw it in this beautiful class last night. Oh my God, this was a slightly different aspect of the same thing. Our knee was turning, the way I did it, and maybe I got it wrong, I don't know, but it felt so good. When my leg was in front of me, I let that hip be in front of me. That hip moved that leg forward. And then when I took the hip back and dropped it, so I took the foot like that. Oh, I got a nice adjustment. Oh. So the leg, because my hip was forward, my knee was somewhat turned in, and then it felt so juicy to do the opposite, because I had this wind up here and this drop here, and what could happen is, boom, I could get this rebound. Rebound, recoil, slings. Think of a slingshot, phew! And that's one reason in these methods that I've been training in for so many years. There are terms that can go to a bow, like you pull the bow, and then boom, all the power comes out. The legs are bowing when they receive weight, and then in Goda they say corner, to push, to turn. Receptor propulsive is the language physical therapists will use in the gait cycle, so does the axis syllabus. Gosh, so many other forms that are talking about this recoil. Recoil, the most tension is created when something's turning and gets pulled, and then it's released. Our Achilles is the master source of recoil. These hip drop, or these heel drops, these hip-driven heel drops, this mass of this leg added in. You've got the perfect storm of feeling better than you thought you ever could. Running long distance, maybe someday I will. Our ancestors could run hundreds of miles because of this design. Other animals in the animal kingdom do not have this. Well, okay, there might be some, but I've heard the majority of animals, their heel doesn't drop. They have these pads, and they don't have this spring the way we have it. Although there are other spring systems. You've seen all those animals do those amazing leaps like the antelopes. These animals still have their springs intact. They don't have to think about it. But one thing you got to do today, if you're wearing any shoes or doing any activity like jumping on a trampoline that is undoing your most important spring called your Achilles, this is a setup for future injury if you want to do anything other than sitting on the couch. I know you don't want to do that.